All right, so once more, I am accompanied by the Dark Fool, the darkest of all fools. How you doing, buddy? See, good. He's evil. He's evil, people.
Live spelled backwards.
See. Okay, so we wanted to discuss
basically right-hand path, left-hand path Satanism again, but it was more of a continuation of one of your videos.
Right.
Thomas. Yeah, it was...
basically, it's acceptance. It's about acceptance. Should the left-hand path be accepted by the status quo?
Right. That was the crux of your video. And back in the old YouTube days, there was like a roundtable discussion. It was Jason King, myself, a couple of other people, a lot of back and forth. And at that time, I took the wrong position. See, why I wanted to get into this discussion with you is because I was on both sides.
So you can see both.
I definitely see both sides, both angles of that argument. And there is one... I did come to one conclusion, but we'll get to that. But yeah, with organizations that come out like the TST, and yes, I do pronounce it the TST.
You do that on purpose.
Yes, I do. That's just how it rolls off the tongue better. Okay. I'm sorry, and that's not a slander to any of the TST members out there. That's just it's easier for me to say. I just want to clear that up. Anyway, but back in that roundtable discussion, there was, like, we don't need to have an organization. We don't need to have brick house churches. We don't need to have like a physical place. And that was actually the precursor to movements. It was very much along the lines of what we've been discussing for a long time, right-hand path Satanism.
Right.
And at the time, even though I understood the left-hand path, Christianity still had played a part in my life. It was still there. It was still inherent.
The residue still lingered.
Yeah.
All right.
And my anger outweighed my rationale. So I really want to set the stage with that. And that's why...
That's the way it is with a lot of people. It takes them a while to get over it.
And that's why I wanted to come out and discuss, make this video and have this discussion, is because I understand when you have people out there that are pushing legislation that just goes against your self-interest. Like, I'm a big fan of freedom of choice, and then there are right-wing Christian people that are against, like they want to overturn Roe v. Wade.
Right.
And there's just all that kind of stuff. It feels like the opposition is just keeps pushing. Even no matter how independent you get, it's like they just keep pushing this shit over and over. And it drove me mad. It drove me nuts. And I was surrounded by that. So I was inundated by all of this.
Yeah, family and...
Right. Yeah,
at the time... Family, friends.
At the time, I had to move back in with family to get back on my feet.
Okay.
So, yeah, if that adds any perspective to it. So, yeah, I was around it. It was still inherent. But, yeah, I really understand what it's like when you have, people... I wouldn't even go so far as to say enemies, but just people that are pushing against your interests that are just... It feels like they're encroaching on your life.
Okay. And how does this play into acceptance of the path? Meaning you would you would want them to accept it, or try to make it as legitimate as, let's say, let's say the sect.
Mm-hmm.
Try to make the sect in Sinisterist philosophy as legitimate as, let's say, a Protestant denomination or something? Is that what you're getting at?
More of pushing it. Okay. At that time, especially with the perspective that I had, it was more about pushing. It's like, well, you know what? They can, and this is true even where I work currently. Oh, you can just talk openly about Christianity all you want, but if I started talking all this crazy left-hand path shit, then I get, that's not fair.
Well, of course it isn't fair, because the left-hand path is it's transgressive. It is evil in the eyes of the status quo.
And that's and
see, it needs to be.
Right. But see, that's my point, is that it's like, well, you know what, if you can do that, then I can do this. No, I can't. Back in that old way of thinking of mine, it was like, you know what, I'm fighting for my territory. You have yours. Does that make sense? That's why a lot of people, I'm pushing this right, I'm pushing that right, I'm pushing this awareness. It's like,
right.
Yeah, to me, I had an old mindset of, well, I'm going to carve out my niche, I'm going to carve out my territories. I want to see physical churches of Satan, more of them, because that's more of a control and a dominance of our side.
Right, and I wouldn't mind a physical. Well, we had a physical temple in the winery.
This is true.
So I don't have a problem with physical aspects, physical representations.
Especially
of the
when
path.
it looks like, let's face it, a lot of cathedrals, art. I mean, yeah, there is an aesthetic, and that would be cool.
Yeah.
But is it really, especially in this digital age, is it really necessary?
Not necessary, but nice.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Because basically, that's our plan again, is to get property once more.
Right, but that's a different. You're looking at it from a whole different approach, a whole different angle.
Right.
It's not a fuck you, I'm going to carve out my... It's like, this is ours.
This is ours. And if you don't like it, oh well.
See, and that's why I wanted to have this discussion, because I have since, obviously, long since, changed my views, and I finally calmed down, and I said, well, what is the left-hand path? It's individualism. It's...
Number one.
Yes, it's autonomy.
Right. It's going out of the confines of the village, as Joseph Campbell would phrase it.
So then I realized, what do I have to do? In order to really escape this, I have to work on myself.
Exactly.
And that's
First
exactly
and
what I
foremost.
did. And my life got a hell of a lot better.
You are at the center
Yes.
of it all.
Mm-hmm.
And it radiates from you.
Exactly. I turned it, because at the time of my anger, I attacked outwardly rather than fixed.
Instead of attacking the inward.
Yep, instead of fixing inwardly.
Ah, nice.
That's the core of what changed. And you know what? And my life is a lot better for it. And that stuff doesn't, I mean, okay, is it still around me? Yes, but does it have much of an effect on my life? Absolutely not.
Shows you're growing up, young man.
Thanks, Dad.